I love pomegranates, rimonim, both the taste of them, also their symbolism within Judaism, the idea that just as pomegranates are so filled with seeds, so too we should be filled with good deeds and with mitzvot. I also think they're a beautiful fruit, particularly when used in art. So it always brings me great joy when reading through the Torah to see that they're an essential part of the service and the design of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the place in the desert where we would make offerings to Hashem, where the Kohanim, the priest, would serve. Specifically, they are part of the garments of the clothing of the high priest, the Kohen Gadol. So the Kohen Gadol wears different clothing items, whether it's the top, the crown, or the chest plate, and he also wears this long coat, this me'il. In the Torah, in this week's parasha of Tetzaveh, describes how in the bottom, the hem of this coat, that it should be have these little pa'amonei zahav, these golden bells, and rimonim. And Rashi points out something interesting and very specific about the way they are organized. It doesn't just say that they're alternating. That would be, obvious. He says specifically it should be one bell, one pa'amon zahav, one golden bell between every two pomegranates. Now, if you think about it for a second, if they're alternating, which the Torah suggests or the Torah says, then it depends on how you look at it. It depends on your point of view. It's either, one bell between every two pomegranates or one pomegranate between every bell, except later in the Torah, as Rashi and the Talmud point out, the Torah specifically says that it should be one bell between every two pomegranates. Again, practically speaking, if you alternate, it's not going to make a difference. But why this emphasis on the significance of only one bell but two pomegranates? And this goes back to another idea suggested in that Talmud in Zvachim, which is that every single item of the Kohanim's clothes somehow symbolically are part of the service. They're meant to represent something, whether a clothing item that is over the heart is meant to represent the sins of the heart. And that makes a part of the service. When someone comes and they've sinned because they were stubborn or haughty or prideful, each item of clothing connects symbolically to that shortcoming of the person. So, what do the bells and the pomegranates connect to? And the Talmud says they connect to the sin of lashon hara, of speaking ill of other people. Well, how does that work? And the idea is that when the Kohen Gadol walks through the Beit HaMikdash, the Mishkan, the bells announce his presence. They do make sound. But what's more important than sound sometimes is silence. So the idea is that one bell, sometimes you do want to make a sound, but ideally you focus on the silence surrounding that sound. And that idea is shared beautifully in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, where the son of Rabban Gamliel Shimon, it says, Shimon beno Omer, Kol yamai gadalti ven hachachamim. He said his whole life he grew up among sages, including his father. Velo matzati laguf tov ela shtika. And I didn't find anything better for my body or my soul better than silence. So if we look at this, even though technically it's alternating, but we think about the way we use speech, sometimes it's important to talk and to say something. But sometimes it's much more important to just have silence. Shabbat Shalom.